Welcome to We Don't Have Cookies with your host, Jason Marshall.
Hey everybody, thanks for downloading the show. Today's episode is part 2 of the Best of Kenny Bolin. If you missed part 1, you don't have to hear it first to enjoy this one, but I would highly recommend listening to it after this. Kenny is a guest here every month or two, so if you're listening to this on Facebook or Twitter, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future shows. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, SiriusXM Spoke app, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere podcasts are available, including YouTube and Roku. And real quick, Spotify listeners, you're amazing. Thanks for all the downloads. I've only been there for a couple of weeks and I'm blown away. On the last episode, I talked about Kenny's good side, the friend and the family man. Today, I will be going over the side of Kenny that most people talk about, the guy who starts fights and cons people. As one of his friends, I don't see it that way, but a lot of people seem to. Over the years, I've had a pretty wide variety of people on my podcast. I've had comedians, psychics, musicians. I've even had reverends on the show. Today, I want to welcome to the show Dwight McCormick.
Hey, how's it going, Jason?
Good. How are you?
Great. Glad to be here today. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying this to be sacrilegious. I really don't know. I don't know if I should call you a preacher or a priest.
You can call me Dwight, or I go by Reverend or preacher. Priest is more for Episcopals and Catholics, and what they call us in our denomination, the Presbyterian Church USA, is Reverend.
I used to do a segment on the podcast where I would ask my current guest a question from my last guest. The thing is, the last guest had no idea who the next guest would be. Well, that didn't go so well when it came time for Kenny to do it. Now, coming back from the break, we got a question from last week's guest. If anybody out there wants to know who last week's guest was, check out last week's episode. Here's the question. The person who was on last week's show has no idea who they're asking this to.
I got you.
So keep that in mind, please.
Will I be asked to have a question for the next week's guest?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
How old were you the first time you ever had sex in your parents' bed on a weekday between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m.? Very specific.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know if I want to plead the fifth on that. I'm trying to remember if I doubt that I ever had sex in my parents' bed. Yeah, I don't think I did. So I have to say that I never did. So
okay.
That's the answer.
But it also didn't go so well for Kenny either. And it was a great time having you on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Now, you normally, I get to ask a question for the next guest. Have I already done that? Is that what I've done?
No, we got to get to that
as
soon as the show's over. So,
well, oh, is that how it works?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That way they can't listen to the show. And then
I tipped off the whole thing.
Actually,
I exposed the business is what I did.
I had this written down and I got distracted. I had a question for last week's guest.
Yeah.
I don't think we can answer this one right now. I don't know. Maybe you can.
Because I haven't got to answer the question yet. So
yeah, I was going to ask this right up front because it might take a while. What are 17 things that make you happy?
17 things that make me happy. Well, you write them down as I name them, and when we get to 17, you let me know.
All right.
Let's start right off the bat with Asian pussy. Let's go number 1 with that. Number 2, more Asian pussy.
I'm not going to play all 17 of them because it took us a while to get through them. But once we were finished, Kenny wasn't happy. It's a hell of a way.
Make me name 17 fucking things that make me happy. God damn.
I wish I'd.
Well, I can't blame you for that. That's the previous guest, though, right? What was his fucking name?
It was Mama Kate. So
fuck her.
And he didn't forget it. We were talking about an upcoming episode of Martial Law that we were going to do with Jim Cornette when this came up.
I'll tell him one fall with a 10-minute time limit. That's your traditional jobber match anyway.
Sounds fun. The first episode was just a punishment. I brought Mama Kate on, and
you saw me light her ass up yesterday, didn't you?
Well, you had a problem with her before because she was the one that had
that way.
It was the question from the last guest, and she said, "What are 25 things that make you happy?"
Oh my God, that's a fucking shit question to ask them. I bet I didn't answer those either, did I?
Yeah, it took forever.
Did I? Do you remember 5 things that made me happy other than hot Asian teenagers?
Well, that was the first thing I was going to say. Okay, in hindsight, I might have brought that up myself. But he held on to that grudge and brought her up on another show.
Hey,
What's that lady's name? Mama Cass or Mama Kate?
Mama Kate.
Yeah, well, her and I are going to have to settle up one day is all I'm going to tell you. I don't like her, and Renee Bear's a whore. And another show. Well, I want to thank you for being such a part of the show the last year. You were the 3rd most frequent guest on the show. So thanks for coming on so much. On more than me.
Mama Kate?
Mama Kate, yeah.
Bitch. And Mike Canistero. Mama Kate was on a record 19 times, which is nuts.
You do realize that quantity does not beat quality.
And another show.
Speaking of how things go, what's that thing you got where Mama Cass or whoever you got, and she was bitching at somebody, and she was mad that she didn't get a shout out on Twitter or got a follow or something. What was all that about?
Yeah, she lost her case. That was Marshall.
Yeah, no. What's her name? I called her Mama Cass. That's obviously somebody else.
Yeah. She gets that a lot, actually. Her name's
Mama Cass actually died choking on a ham sandwich. She sang for the mamas and the papas. You know that song, California Dreamin'? Mm-hmm. Maya? Yeah. If you could put down your jar of peanut butter in your phone, we're doing a show here. But no, Mama Cass died choking on a ham sandwich, and a lot of people predicted that's how I would go as well. But that ain't happened yet. So what's her name now? Mama what?
Mama Kate.
Oh, that's close. That was in the ballpark. She lost the case. Then what's the last we've heard out of them? Have they settled their differences? We still got heat with these two, or what have we got?
She had to retweet Choo Choo Stew on Twitter for 72 hours. And everything got squashed, and Choo Choo Stew is now a big fan of hers somehow.
Well, who's Choo Choo Stew? Is that the guy she had the problem with?
Yeah. Yeah,
Choo
he's
Choo
my
Stew.
buddy over in the UK.
You actually claim to have a buddy named Choo Choo too. I think I'd deny that to anybody that would listen.
So on her last appearance, I talked to Mama Kate about it. Kenny Bolin's verified on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't see why Dan Severn can't
Well, I mean,
be.
that's just good for everybody to know who he's currently angry at.
We talked about this before the show. For some reason, Kenny Bolin hates Mama Kate.
And I'm okay with that. He can hate me if he wants. I don't know Kenny Bolin from a hole in the wall. He could walk up to me and punch me in the face, and I wouldn't know who he was.
The thing that got me was I was recording. It was the last show that Maya was on, which is his daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
And I said something about you. I don't know if it was before we started recording or what. And he was in the background. He was watching Monday Night Raw because he had to do a review show. And he heard your name come up and he went, "Fuck Mama Kate." Just out of nowhere. We weren't even talking to him. And Maya said, "Why do you not like Mama Kate?" And he was like, "I gotta hate somebody."
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
I gotta assume he's still bitter about the questions things, but I can't help that he happened to be the guest after me twice. You know, I was really trying to punish Jason.
And that just seemed to piss Kenny off more.
Then I get this thing today to where you're apologizing that you didn't have time and room for me on your Thanksgiving show that I don't ever recall being invited to be on in the first place. And I take that as a bit of a slap in the face because I know goddamn well out of all the shows I've done with you that I have to be in the probably top 5 shows you've ever done. And I'm not even a comedian. You're a comedy show. I'm aware of that. You're not a wrestling show. I'm aware of that. But for me to get an email and to say that we ain't got time for you, basically is what it said. We don't have time for you or room for you to put you in a show that you were never fucking invited on to begin with. And that's kind of pissed me off a little bit. It's the reason I'm calling you. What show did you do that you didn't have room for me on? I can guarantee you probably had that mama bitch on. What's her name? Mama Cat?
Mama Kate.
I thought it was Mama Cat, but whatever. So you had room for her. She made your show, I guess.
Yeah, we did a show, the show that we're doing right now, to apologize for not being able to do this show.
Did she get in a letter apologizing to her that there wasn't no room for her on the show? Apparently not. You just told me she made the show.
Yeah, and one of the topics of conversation was why you don't like her.
Oh, well, wasn't that nice of you to name drop for a show that I wasn't on? Why I don't like her? I don't know. Her name's Mama Cat, Mama Kate. She bitches about stupid shit. I ain't got room for people like that in my life. Now, who's there's another stupid fuck I used to hear.
Choo Choo Stew.
Blue. What's his name?
Choo Choo Stew.
Choo Choo Stew. I thought it was Choo Choo Blue. I thought he chewed on things till they turned blue. But, so that stupid fuck made the show. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Why was he on and not me?
Well, he's a friend of mine, and I wanted to have him on.
So your friends get on the show, and I'm apparently not a friend of yours. How long have I known you now?
Oh, God. 5-6 months at least.
And I know it's been longer than that, you lying asshole.
And as you could hear, somehow he even brought Choo Choo Stew into it. But Kenny doesn't just go after people. Sometimes he even goes after companies. He also doesn't mind getting his fans involved.
I said, your word ain't worth shit. You can't be trusted. I said, there's some shady shit going on with you I don't know about. And I said, I don't care. I said, because as long as your dad's the owner of that place, me and a lot of other people are never going to set foot in that fucking place again. And anybody that cares for me or loves me will never fucking eat at Clarksville Seafood again.
After that episode, there was so much backlash on the place, they had to shut down for a while to regroup.
Oh, by the way, the people did rally. They shut down and went out of business for over 3 months.
No shit.
Yeah,
Wow.
people rallied against them, and they shut down for over 3 months. But they're back open again now. From I think they just opened up last week.
Damn.
So I was very pleased that those fuckers got shut down for 3 months for some of the stupid shit they've been doing.
That isn't the only seafood-related story he's told on the show. Kenny pulled a prank on his best friend and didn't reveal it for 40 years.
Cornette's fans go to bed about 6:30. Cornette's in bed by 5:30.
I'm glad you brought him up. That's the last thing I wanted to talk to you about.
I hadn't, and it's the last thing I'd like to talk about.
We do a thing on the show called This Week's Dumbass of the Year.
Well, that's the perfect person to bring up. Then perfect person. See, if I'd have said perfect person without the pop filter, it would have pissed some people off.
Well,
But to do it, hang on, before we get into it. If I'd have said perfect person on the podcast without using the pop filter, I'd have pissed some people off. There we go. Now it's back on. That's why you use it, folks. This is an educational program, if nothing else.
I had a rundown of things I wanted to talk to you about.
Bet we've talked about none of them.
Kinda, yeah.
Right.
One of them I want to talk to you about.
You shouldn't have pissed me off, man.
One of them I want to talk to you about later is your brother living with Colonel Sanders. We'll get into that on the next episode.
We'll
or
do
the
that.
next show you're on.
But that is a bit of a lengthy story, and we probably should really let some people go to bed, regardless what time they're hearing this.
But I was looking, like I said, I usually have a segment called This Week's Dumbass of the Year, and nothing compared to what you did to Jim Cornette.
Oh, my God.
So Jim Cornette is this.
Oh, well. It's gone now. We recording or not?
Yeah.
So the fans heard all this?
Well, I'll probably take it out in post.
Good stuff.
I forget where we were, but
You were going to talk to me about something about Cornette?
yeah, I was saying that I scoured the internet looking for This Week's Dumbass of the Year.
And you come up with Jimmy Cornette? Well, I'll be happy to talk about it.
Nothing could top the story that we have in store for the listeners at home. You want to take it away?
Well, give me 1 second here, because I was fucking with my phone the way most rude people do when they're either at a funeral, a wedding, or dinner. And I was fucking with my phone. I was going to fuck with you and play Cake by the Ocean again, but I'd unplugged it. So I don't guess I'll be playing Cake by the Ocean unless I go through the trouble to get Styles Bitchley in here and hook all my shit up again. So what happened is that in 1976, I had gotten fired from Burger Queen, back when it was called Queenie Bee. And the slogan was, "Come follow Queenie Bee, it's Burger Queen for me." And that was the slogan. And Queenie Bee was in a fucking bumblebee suit, and she would do personal appearances and everything. And I bent Queenie Bee over and had sex with her at a dare. No, I didn't. I'd never fuck a bee in the ass, I promise. And so I didn't have sex with Queenie Bee. Even though, well, of course, you have to be an idiot to think you wouldn't, especially if it was forced sex. And you trust me, a human is going to have to force themselves on a bumblebee. So I didn't do that, but what I did do is I played softball for their softball team, and they wanted to win the LaGrange regional districts. And me and Mike Coffey were probably two of the better teenage softball players in all of LaGrange. So we got hired to work for Dairy Burger King, and they felt with having me and Mike Coffey on the same team with the additions of what they've already had, they felt it was a lock that we were going to win the city championship against all the other restaurants and businesses in LaGrange. And they had stacked the deck when they hired me and Mike Coffey, and we were 16 sneaking up on 17 years of age. What they didn't realize is that we were two of the worst restaurant workers that you could possibly hire. Neither of us had any experience in the restaurant business. It was our first jobs ever to work anywhere other than cleaning windows at an insurance company called Cassidy Insurance. And so they realized that they were stuck with us for 90 days if they wanted to win the city districts, because I was the power hitter. Mike was a great base hitter and was a great defensive guy. We were both very fast, but I was even faster because, folks, I haven't always weighed 400 pounds. Back then, I probably weighed about 175, 180 pounds. I could run like the fucking wind, and I could do that till I was right at 40, even weighing 330 pounds. I could outrun most humans. And I know people don't want to believe that, but you can ask anybody that ever worked with me. I could run like a motherfucker until about 3:30, and then that shit went away. And so we were a great addition to that ball club. And sure enough, after 90 days and a lot of fuck-ups at work, we won the city districts. And I want you to know that the night we won the trophy, and there was supposed to have been a big celebration the next night at Dairy Queen, us showing off the trophy and all the ball players there and homage being paid to us. They didn't even wait for us to come there and get to have the party and have the trophy and the free food and all. We were fired by the time we got back that night to report to work. They said, we have discussed. They met me at the door. They wouldn't even let me in the building.
No shit.
Mike had already been fired. He'd already showed up and they'd already fired him. And I show up for my shift. I think I got to work 6 to midnight or something. And I show up and they met me at the back door because you had to enter through the back door. You weren't allowed to go in the front door and be seen because they, I guess, have you ever noticed that? They never want the employees just walking into the front door and going to the work.
Yeah.
They always got to come through a hidden place in the back, like they don't even want you to know you work there. And so I come to the back door. You got to knock on it. And the manager's name was Jim Flack. The GM's name was Bernie Bell. Bernie didn't have the guts to fire me himself. He had Jim Flack do it. And Jim Flack had, his story's getting real long. But Jim Flack met me at the door and he says, Kenny, we had a meeting today and we've determined that the restaurant business isn't really for you. But Long John Silver's is a lot less responsibility than what you'd have here at Dairy Queen. I said, it took you 90 days to decide that I wasn't made for this? Or is it the fact that I won you your goddamn softball championships and now I'm expendable?
I think we could do a whole nother episode of the stories from this restaurant.
So that's what led me to Long John Silver's. As I got fired from Burger King, well, I had to have some type of work. We were poor. Mom didn't make a lot of money. And if I was going to have anything, if I wanted to go to the wrestling matches on Tuesday nights, if I wanted to go roller skating and get some teenage tail from time to time, you know, I had to have a little, well, they called it pocket money back then, but since the B-52s have come out, I call it jukebox money. And me and Jimmy have always made references ever since the B-52s came out with that song. Well, don't forget to bring your jukebox money. And poor old Maya just finally found out yesterday for the first time where my phrase jukebox money came from. We were at a restaurant called Main Event, and we're eating our salmon dinner that we'd ordered. And then she hears the B-52s, and I'm going, Maya, listen to that song. And I want you to hear the phrase that's coming up. And then she's listening, she's liking the beat and everything. And don't forget to bring your jukebox money. And she looks at me, that's where you got that? You stole that? How old's that song? I said, oh, it's a fucking 80s song. It's been around forever. She thought I invented the phrase jukebox money. But she was always wondering why only me and Cornette and Chris say it. Well, Dad, you got any jukebox money on you? Well, sure. Always got a little jukebox money. So we're having dinner, and I'm going to get back to Long John Silver. So we're having dinner with my mother the other day, and I order $100 and something worth of food for Mom and some of the senior citizens and myself, and biscuits and gravy razor and Chris and Maya, and I've got about $100 worth of food I did a trade with Hometown Pizza. And but we didn't get any drinks. So I said, we need some drinks. So I said, well, go up there. I said, Mom passed on her dinner tonight. Go up there and get us about 5-6 drinks up there at the soda fountain. And Chris comes back and says, Dad, I'm going to need some jukebox money. I said, they want to charge us for the drinks. I said, what are they going to charge us? I said, a quarter. I said, they won't give us a fucking $1.50's worth of goddamn soft drinks. They want my jukebox money. I said, you tell them they ain't getting my fucking jukebox money, that my mother passed on dinner, and we'll take the equivalent in fucking soft drinks. Fuck them. So now I'm getting into it with the goddamn senior citizens home. Mom looks at me and she says, Kenny, I don't know why you're starting shit with these people. I know goddamn well we don't have a jukebox. I looked at her and I about died. Maya's laughing. And Maya doesn't even really know where jukebox money come from at this time.
That was a bad time for me to try to take a drink.
Yeah, Mom was letting me know there was no jukebox in that old folks home. So thank God we got that cleared up. So back to me getting fired from Burger Queen. And they're now called Dairy Queen. That's why I keep fucking up. They were Burger Queen, then they were Druthers. And I don't know if anybody remembers Druthers, but that was big in the 70s and 80s, late 70s and 80s. And then Druthers to me is the stupidest fucking name. Wouldn't you rather have Druthers? That was their slogan. So that's why they went out of business. And so then they become Dairy Queen, which was already in existence. They just bought them out. So now I'm told that it's a lot less responsibility and a lot easier job. You might be able to handle Long John Silver's. Much easier job. We will give you good references. You and Mike Coffey can go there. Well, Mike said, fuck it, I'm done with the restaurant business. So he doesn't go. But his family's got money and mine don't. So I got to go over to Long John Silver's and apply for a job. And they give you this ridiculous fucking outfit to wear. You got to wear this stupid fucking bandana to look like a pirate. And you got to wear white pants with a white and red cross stripe shirt, not stripes going up and down. Fortunately, I weighed about 175 pounds then, or 170.
Do you have a picture of this?
I wish the fucking God I
I do too.
I have a picture from that era where I'm wearing a mask and I'm wrestling as the masked Mauler, and Mike Heilman, my best friend, along with Jimmy Cornette. Mike Heilman had been my friend since third grade, and I'd only known Jimmy 2 years at that time. And I do have a picture from that era, but not wearing the Long John Silver's, that outfit, where every time Cornette would drive me to work, if he was working the weekend, he would stay at the house and watch television. I'd work a 4-hour shift or a 6-hour shift, and I'd come back and I'd bring a shitload of food. And, well, they cracked down on the shitload of food, but Jimmy had nicknamed me Long John Lawler because I'd put on those skin-tight white pants, and there'd be that long sleeve white and red shirt, thick as shit, made of that nylon like old baseball jerseys used to be made out of.
Mm-hmm.
And they went crossways, and then you had to wear a bandana and then around your neck, a scarf or whatever. And then you had to wear a bandana to make you look like a pirate.
Jesus.
Most ridiculous fucking outfit. I was in shame. And I had to wear this fucking thing to work because I had to walk to work back then. I didn't have a car unless Jimmy was giving me a ride. And then at night, Jimmy, if he was there, would come down and pick me up. Well, they cracked down on the free food rule. Some of the managers were cool and they'd let you take home whatever you want. That was kind of from the overcooked pile, and you could just pick through that and take what you want. And Jimmy knew that, and Jimmy always liked the chicken and the cracklings and the fish. And I, too, liked the fish especially, and if chicken was all there was, that's cool. And I let Jimmy have all the cracklings. I could give less than a rat's ass for the cracklings. And you know what the cracklings are.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that stuff.
The crusty part. You know, I guess when I heard the term fish and chips, I didn't realize that in England, that's what fish and chips are, is the cracklings.
Yeah, I always thought it was fries.
Yeah, well, I always thought fish and chips would be fucking potato chips. What I'd have thought, but no, it's the crust, I guess, the batter. You know, the extra batter that floats around. So they cracked down on that, and they said, "Well, no, we can't give you that anymore due to health code violations." They said, "But at the end of the night, we're going to set a shitload of food out on the dumpster just before you get off work, and what happens between here and that dumpster is up to you." But it'll be sitting on top. It'll be fine. It'll be covered up. Well, that night it wasn't. that night it was sitting on top of the dumpster. It'd been out there about 20-something minutes. And I was hungry. So a hungry man, his restrictions on what he will not eat dropped dramatically. Have you ever seen a guy just drop a fucking hamburger on the floor and knowing goddamn well there's dog and cat hair is going to be on it, and then a guy pick it up, think nobody's looking, and he eats it anyway? I've done it. So, that dog hair ain't that bad if you're hungry. So
Add some texture.
So I grabbed this great big ass pan, a pan of sitting inside of a cardboard box that's loaded with about $100 worth, even back then, of fish, chicken, hush puppies, cracklings, and a shitload of it, and a lot of fucking cracklings. And if I had to guess, if you as a customer and had to pay for it, you'd have forked out pretty goddamn close to $100.
Wow.
So Jimmy comes down, and there I stand with it in my hand. He doesn't know that I've just climbed up on a few bricks and pulled that son of a bitch off the top of that dumpster.
Chicken.
But he didn't get there in time to see that happen. I'd already been standing there about 3 or 4 minutes waiting on him to come down over the hill to pick me up, because I only lived a mile from there, but it was all uphill. And at the end of the night, that hill was a little rough. So he'd come down, pick me up, and we put the thing was so big we had to put it in the trunk of Jimmy's car. And he said, God damn. I said, well, that's all we had left tonight, so we got a lot. We can feed the whole family tonight. Fuck the family. We're going to lock the door, and me and you's going to eat it all. I said, well, we'll eat what we can, but we're not going to eat all this. I said, we'll give the family what's left over. And that's what we do. So we get back, and we're gearing up, and we're waiting for wrestling to come on. As you know, we used to watch wrestling on the roof and everything, and but that night we couldn't eat up on the roof because we had no way to get ourselves up there, and this big ass giant fucking boxed pan of fish, chicken, cracklings, and hush puppies. So we got to eat in our room and watch on the 25-inch black and white console TV. And we got the windows open because I don't have an air conditioner at this time, and it's in the dead of fucking summer. So fortunately, the sun's gone down. It's starting to cool out just a little bit, and with the fans in the window, it ain't too bad. But Jimmy's used to a 62-degree room, no humidity, and a massive air conditioner. So even if it's cool to me, Jimmy's smothering. So he wanted to be up on that roof where we could get a breeze, but it's not an option that night. We're sitting in there, and of course, I'm not thinking twice about eating that fish and chicken and cracklings. I'm not a word about it. I'm happy to be eating it, happy to have food. And Jimmy is too. But he just doesn't know where it's come from. And he's putting that shit away in record pace, man. He hadn't eaten anything all day. He's been waiting on me to get home. He didn't want to go in and deal with Mom and Janice. So he's been locked in my room all day, sleeping. And then he's putting that fish away at record pace. I said, how is that fish, Jimmy? Is that good? Oh, goddamn, man, that shit's good. It's still hot. I said, well, pretty much. I said, it's still warm. I'll give you that. I said, what do you think of the cracklings? Oh, goddamn, man, fucking best cracklings ever been. Cracklings are great. and you like the chicken too? You eating some of the chicken? Yeah, chicken, Kenny. Some of the best I ever had. This goddamn it, fucking shit's good. You think you can get this much every time you go? I said, well, I don't know. It just depends what we have left, but I'll try. And but it's really good. You really like it. No complaints. Oh no, goddamn, Ken, I told you, man, it's fucking great. Well, I forgot to ever try and play a rib on him about this. And I told this at dinner at Golden Corral exactly 40 years after it happened. And I'm telling Chris and Mayara and little Jimmy LeBeau and I think Rob Dickin is sitting there and a former host on the show. And I'm telling the story. Chris and Maya are howling because they know what a germaphobe Jimmy is. Jimmy washes his hands 10 and 15 times a day. He cleans his house. He does things that normal human beings doesn't do. He had people over there today to vacuum out all of his vents with a fine-tooth comb up in the attic. He'd never thought to do this before. He didn't realize how much dirt gathers in those things. But now that he knows it's there, he can't even breathe. He breathed fine the day before. But now that he knows the dirt's in there, it's fucking with him, and he can't take it. And he wears gloves for everything. And if food has been sitting on the counter for an hour or two, he throws it away. Won't even let nobody else in the house eat it, even though there ain't a goddamn thing wrong with it. And, well, I'm probably exaggerating an hour or two. If it's been sitting on the counter for an hour or longer, it's garbage to him. I've had stuff sitting on my stove for 3 days, and as long as I don't see anything green coming out of it, I'm eating it. Nothing the microwave can't kill the way I see it. And that is my absolute rule. If I don't see anything green, it's fine. If I don't see anything fuzzy, it's fine. That's my rules. not Jimmy's, the biggest germaphobe that ever lived. So I'm doing his podcast here roughly about a year ago, 8 months ago, something like that. It's been a while. And all of a sudden I decided, Jimmy, I said, the fans don't know what a germaphobe you are, do you? Do they? And he says, oh, I'm sure they know. We've talked about it. I don't like germs. Fuck germs. Germs are terrible. I said, you only eat the best and the finest of foods, right? You'd never consider eating food that's been sitting out on the counter for over an hour. Oh, my God. All the bacteria, all the diseases that can set in there. Oh, fuck no. I said, Jimmy, you do know me very well. You know I'll eat food that's been on a stove sitting out in the open air for 3 days, maybe 4. You've seen me do it, right? Yeah, it's why your immune system's the way it is, man. You can't fucking get sick. You got so many goddamn bacteria and horrible germs in you. You got an immune. I said, don't you think that's a good thing that I don't get as sick as you do? Yeah. That you get 4, 5, 6 colds a year? Jimmy, I went 7 years without getting a cold. Do you know why? Because I've got a pretty good immune system. You know why? Well, I'll be honest with you. If I'm not going anywhere, I don't take 2 and 3 showers a day. I've been known to go 3, 4 days without a shower if I ain't going anywhere. I got nobody to impress, and as long as I don't smell me, I'm cool with it. Now, when I smell me, I'll take one. But, I'm old, retired, and I got nowhere to go, nothing to do most of the time. I said, when it comes to food, you've seen my rules on that. But I got a confession I got to make to you today, Jimmy. He said, what's that? I said, well, first of all, I need to know something very important. I said, have you ever knowingly eat food out of the garbage? Well, hell, no, fuck no. Court, no. Wait, what? Why you asked that? Why did you say knowing? now he's kind of on to it. What have you done? I said, well, Jimmy, nothing recently. He said, what do you mean recent? What? So now he's real fucking paranoid. What have you done? We did this on his podcast. I exposed him on his podcast. I said, Jimmy, I said, do you remember your love for fish and chicken and remember the cracklings? Oh, God, I love the cracklings. He's now having flashbacks to all the fish I used to bring back from Long John. Oh, yeah, that was back when you worked at Long John Silver's, and I used to call you Long John Lawler because you looked like Lawler wearing a pirate outfit. I said, yeah, that's real funny you named me that back then. I said, but you know what? I said, I didn't like being called Long John Lawler because I knew you were laughing. And I knew you were laughing because I had to work and you didn't. I said, you were in my home taking 6 and 8 hour naps waiting for me to get off work. And then you reaped all the benefits every Saturday night when I'd come home and we'd watch wrestling. And you're sitting there eating the finest fish and chicken. That's the shame of the matter, is that in LaGrange, it was the finest fish, chicken, and cracklings available because it was the only fucking fish, chicken, and hush puppies available. And I said, you sit there and you'd reap all the benefits from my heart.
It was the Clarksville of LaGrange.
It was the Clarksville of LaGrange. That's what it was. And so now he's starting to kind of put 2 and 2 together. He says, did you do something to one of my fish dinners? I said, I didn't do a thing to one of your fish dinners, Jimmy. I said, I'm not that big of a fucking dick. I said, I didn't do a thing to it. Well, why are you bringing it up? I said, how long's it been since you had your last big old plate of cracklings and fish and chicken and especially the crack? You love the crack. Oh, I love the cracklings. I said, I know you do. You've talked about it many times. I said, well, I got a confession to make. Are you ready to hear it? He said, yeah. I said, roughly about 40 years ago tonight, there was a night that you come down to pick me up, and you was always used to me having a shitload of fish to bring home with me. Well, that night I was going to have to disappoint you because I knew you hadn't eaten. It was too late to go out and eat anywhere. And we weren't going to have any food, and I didn't want to put you in that position. So thinking of you, I did something for you. Well, what'd you do? I said, well, they passed a rule earlier that week that we could no longer take fish and chicken and cracklings and all that home. We couldn't do that no more due to health code violations. Why would they do that? I said, well, because, Jimmy, that fish and chicken I'd been bringing home had been sitting out for a couple of 3 hours. Oh, you're kidding me. Oh, my God. I didn't realize it'd been out that long. I said, well, that's not the bad part of this story. That's the good part. He says, how can it get any worse than that? I said, well, I didn't want you to go hungry that night. And they told me, they said, well, Kenny, we can't give you this fish because that's against the law. We'll get in trouble. If you take it home and get sick, or any of your family members get sick, if you rat us out, we get in big trouble, lose our restaurant license. Long John Silver's closed down. and you probably sue us. So I said, well, probably. I said, so I don't blame you. He said, but what we can do is that we're going to put it on the dumpster. And then if you decide you want that fish, you can climb up a few of those bricks there at the side and you can go up there and get it. And it's up to you. And then if you get sick, it's your fault. I said, deal. He said, deal? What do you mean deal? I said, well, that night I didn't want you to go hungry and I didn't want to be hungry either. And I knew that fish was fine. I'm the one that boxed it all up and put it on there. I said, so the management went out and they put it up there nice and neat. They didn't dump it into the dumpster like assholes. They left it intact and they set it on top of the dumpster. And then when I got off work, I went out there and I got it. And he said, he said, how long was it on the dumpster? I said, somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes. So I got off work. So wait a minute. That goddamn fish and chicken and cracklings was not only sitting out in that restaurant for 2 or 3 hours, but sitting on top of a dumpster in the dead of fucking summer.
Oh my God.
For about a half an hour. I said, yeah, roughly. I said, but the sun wasn't shining. It was dark. Wasn't that hot?
Just the smell.
Yeah, well, maybe. So he says, well, you mean to tell me that thing that you brought home, what you brought home was in the dumpster? I said, I just climbed up here about 3 minutes before you pulled up and got it. He starts getting sick on his own show. He leaves the show for about 3 or 4 minutes. I said, where did you go? Oh my God, I had to go throw up. God damn. I can't believe you fucking did that to me, you motherfucker. You son of a bitch. God damn. He says, I'm probably sick now. I said, Jimmy, it was 40 years ago. And then Brian Ladd says, oh my God. He said, who the fuck else has ever ribbed their best friend and exposed it 40 years later? I said, it may have never been exposed if I hadn't told my son and daughter-in-law. I'd forgot. I said, but I remember Jimmy telling me how great it was. God, I remember the night. I couldn't believe you brought home. It was the most fish you ever brought home. I've never seen so many cracklings. I couldn't even eat them all. That might be a good thing you didn't. Because who knows what was wrong with that stuff. You know the immune system I got. It wasn't going to affect me. I said, but you had no immune system. I said, basically, Jimmy, I tried to kill you that night because you was making me work for my money. Your family was rich. All you had to do was just give me some of your allowance, and I wouldn't have had to work. So maybe deep down in the back of my mind, I was trying to kill you. I was trying to put an end to you. Not directly. Oh, if you'd have dropped dead, they'd have never blamed me. Oh, well, I guess Jimmy ate some bad fish. I guess he ate some bad chicken. I ate the same chicken. I'm fine. Maybe he got hold of something else. I don't know. I don't know what happened to Jimmy. But Jimmy died. That's just maybe in the back of my mind. That's what I wanted. I tried. I just want you to know, Jimmy, I fucking tried to kill you 40 years ago, and I wasn't successful. So just keep looking around, son, because over the next 40 years, I'm going to get you. There's going to come a day I'm going to get something in your mouth you don't want, and you're going to die from it. So that was pretty much how that show went. And he had to discover that. And he swear to God, he threw up, thinking that he had eaten fish out of a dumpster. And he was gone off the show. Me and Brian Last had to just sit there and talk while we was figuring out what he was doing. But he left 4 or 5 minutes and fucking threw up. Now, whether they've edited that out since, which probably they did, but in the live recording, he was gone for the better part of about 5 minutes. Sick as a dog. And so now he can almost laugh about it. Yeah, you remember when you fed me that fish out of a dumpster? It has now been 41 years ago, almost 42.
Jim Cornette and Kenny were both in the wrestling company OVW, which was a developmental territory for the largest wrestling organization in the world, the WWE. While he was there, Kenny managed people like John Cena, Bobby Lashley, and Mark Henry. He had a lot of confrontations in the ring that were part of the show, but he also had some behind the scenes. Here is Kenny talking about one of those confrontations with one of the WWE's biggest stars currently, as well as a former UFC heavyweight champion, Brock Lesnar.
So when you're retired and live at home, you get to take a bath once every 7 days. No one knows. All right, let's get to that last story. What do we got? What do you want?
Well, I was going to talk to you about the Brock Lesnar altercation.
That big candy ass. I almost said the word. That big candy a-hole.
I got to tell you, if that would have happened to me, if Brock Lesnar was wanting to fight, I would be scared to death.
I probably was. I just didn't know any better at the time. What had happened is that we had I'd set up a show at the Ironically, where I live now, the Newburgh Boys and Girls Club, which is just down the street from where I live now, I didn't then. And I went there to meet the kids once. I think me and Rico Constantino and a couple others went over there to meet the kids, and they were just super enthusiastic and were just dying to get us to do a show there. What we didn't know is that in late July is that this building had no air conditioning. And late July in Louisville, Kentucky, that's almost a death wish. So we did the show not knowing there's no air conditioning. We go there, do the show. I guess they had 300 or 400 people there. Pretty good little turnout. Me, Sylvester Turkey, Rico, Brock Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin, John Cena, Randy Orton. All of us are on that card. Little did we know it was a WWE All-Star card at that time. It just happened a little early. So we have an excellent show there, and I am sweating about as profusely as I've ever sweated in my life. All they had was one of those big, giant fans. You guys are still there, I take it. It was awful quiet. It was kind of Jimmy up there for a minute. They had a big, giant fan, and I did my best to manage that show with me in front of that fan as much as possible, but it didn't help. So the show's over. I'm wearing a bronze-colored one of those preacher collar style shirts, silk shirt that is absolutely drenched in sweat. You cannot picture a man sweating any more than I was that night. The inside building temperature was probably close to 105.
Wow.
I was embarrassingly soaked in sweat. It was just that bad. So as I'm getting ready to leave, Brock Lesnar's girlfriend at that time, who had been to my house probably 50 times, they'd come over for pay-per-views and grill outs and everything. And I think every single time she ever left my house, I kissed her on the cheek goodbye, every single time. So she comes up to me and I hold my arms out and do the Hollywood kiss thing, to where I physically did not touch her because I explained to her, I'm soaked in sweat. Don't touch me. I wouldn't want to get this on you. And I didn't kiss her. I just on each side of her cheek, but not touching her because I didn't want her to get soaked in sweat. And that was the only reason. So Brock Lesnar walks in just as that happened from breaking down the ring, because they were all forced on the ring crew then because of something stupid a wrestler we had named Seven did. All the WWE potentials had to start being on the ring crew. So that meant Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, Rico, Cena, all of them. You're on the ring crew. So they're breaking down the ring. Lesnar walks in. He says, "Hey, get the F away from my girlfriend." Well, I'm thinking he's joking because, number one, they've been to my house, like I said, 50 times. I've actually kissed her on the cheek every time they've ever left. He'd go to my brother's Biscuits and Gravy's house and do hunting out there all the time because my brother was on some property at that time and had a lot of hunting available on it. So Brock would go out there and go hunting. So I'm thinking, here's this friend of mine who's wanting to carry on part of the show, but there's not really any more fans around. They've all left. So I back away just in case there was a fan around he's putting on a show for. Oh, no, bro, no trouble out of me. So I back away. He says, "Don't you ever effing touch my girlfriend again."
Wow.
I look at him and now he's getting up in my face. And I said, "Brock, I never touched her." I said, I gave her the Hollywood hug and kiss. I never touched her, Brock. So she says, "Brock, he never touched me." He says, "Shut up, B word." He says, "I'll handle this." And I'm looking at her. She's looking at me like he's lost his mind. I looked at him. I said, "Brock," I said, "you're out of line." I said, "She just told you I never touched her." I said, "You got no right to call her that." Well, the next thing I know, he pie faces me. Ooh. And what really teed him off is I didn't go down. I took 2 or 3 steps back. But one thing I was very good at is I always had good balance, and I was a great skater because you couldn't knock me down. I used to go roller skating a lot. So whatever I had, I could shoot basketball like a dream. I was a pretty good baseball player, decent football player, but you could not knock me down. That was just one thing you couldn't do. So even Brock Lesnar, after pie facing me, I think was disgusted at the fact that I didn't go down. So now he's stepping up on me, and my son runs like a beeline to go down to the locker room to get Sylvester Turkey. And he says, "Hey," he says, "Brock's up there trying to punk my dad out." Turkey comes storming up there. He's running full tilt. Gets up there, puts his hand on my shoulder, steps in front of Brock. He says, "Hey, I don't know what your problem is." He says, "If you want to fight somebody," he says, "why don't you try somebody my size?" And Brock just looked at him, took about 3 steps back, turned and walked away, and finished breaking down the ring. Never had another word to say to Sly. And people got mad because I told the story that Sly Turkey backed down Brock Lesnar. Like I gave a damn, or it mattered
Right.
to me who looked bad out of that. He came to defend me, and the story would have been a lot better if Brock Lesnar beat the crap out of Turk and then whipped me too. But that's not what happened.
Well, you should have just demonstrated the Hollywood kiss on Brock so he'd know what actually happened.
Well, in hindsight, 2020, what I should have done.
I'm sure that would have went well.
So we really despised each other from that point on because Cornette found out about it. He was not at that show. Fortunately, being 105 degrees, he was the luckiest guy in the world he wasn't. So he calls me that night when I get home. He says, "What the heck is this with you and Lesnar? What happened?" And I described to him what happened. He says, "You mean to tell me that he wanted to fight you? He put his hand on someone in the office over a kiss that never happened?" He said, "I don't care if it did happen." He says, "If you kissed her on the cheek and he wanted to beat you up over it," he said, he'll be fired immediately. I said, "Well, I hate to see him get fired, Jimmy." I said, "But I do think he owes me an apology." He said, "Well, you damn right he owes you an apology, and you're going to get one." So he calls Brock, and I saved this on my answering machine for years till I finally switched phone services and had to lose it. But he calls me up, and this is exactly how it goes. "Kenny, it's Brock Lesnar here. I'm just calling you to let you know that I was out of line tonight. I should not have done what I did to you, and I'm sorry for that. But don't ever put your hands on my girlfriend again." So that was his message. So I called Jimmy. He says, Did you get an apology from Brock?" I said, "Well, I wasn't here, but he left me a message." So I told Jimmy what he said, and then I wrapped it up with, "And don't you ever put your hands on my girlfriend again." He says, "You got to be kidding me." He had to close with, "Don't put your hands on my girlfriend again," even though you never put your hands on his girlfriend. He says, "I will deal with him personally tomorrow." So apparently Jimmy got in his crap. He called Jim Ross. Jim Ross got in his crap. And then, of course, that led to the thing to where Brock did something he shouldn't have done to Jimmy's girlfriend during a match. That led to an altercation out in the parking lot. That led to Brock Lesnar saying, "I'll kill you, Cornette, if you even think you're going to fight me." Jimmy says, "No, I'm not going to fight you. I'm going to go to my car. I'm going to get a gun. I'm going to shoot you in the kneecap." Let's see how good your wrestling career is then. So Brock was terminated from OVW that night, sent back to Minnesota, and 3 months later, the WWE made him their world champion.
Wow.
So that really taught him a lesson.
Yeah.
Kenny is known by his nicknames King or Starmaker, but he's also known by a special saying.
You know, Kenny Bolin, there is a saying about me. There's someone made a big banner of it and posted it, and I lost about 8 friends because of it. Kenny Bolin, he has his finger in the youth of America. I lost about 8 fans the day I posted that, so there's some uptight women with young kids, I guess. I don't know. But how that little slogan come to be, I was on television with OVW for the better part of about 20 years. And I had it in my head that I wanted to make it clear that I had my finger on the pulse of the children of America. Now, that was what I thought I was going to say during the course of the television show. And the point came up for it, and, "Well, Kenny, why do the kids love you so much? Why are you so popular with these young children?" "Well, you know me, Dean Hill. Kenny Bolin, he has his finger in the youth of America." And that went over the air that way, and wasn't much we could do about it then. And Cornette just lost it. He went, "Holy, I don't believe he just said that on the air." When I got to the back, he says, "You know what? That's a damn stupid. Just keep it that way." He says, probably no sponsor's ever going to let you near them again. But they did.
That might have been the best call Jim Cornette ever made.
Well, he didn't make many, but that one might have been pretty good.
Kenny has talked about his BS merchandise and microphones, but most people don't know that his patented BS logo was almost something else. Yeah, it's a show of firsts, man. You're my first Skype guest. I'm the first person you ever put in the hospital over the podcast.
And this is the first show I've done with my new line of Bolin Management microphones. And a lot of people out there going, "Bolin Management? Well, I thought you were Bolin Services." Well, this is a subsidiary division of Bolin Services. And, well, the reason it's got BM on it, because that's the logo that came on them when I bought them. So we renamed, and as a matter of fact, almost nobody knows this, but originally Jimmy Cornette wanted me to call
my company, Bolin Management. He wanted a big BM on my briefcase because he thought the fans would really get a kick out of chanting BM when I go to the ring.
I can see that.
And of all people, my stupid ass brother, who I don't even speak to anymore because he's that stupid. This is 16, 17 years ago. He's telling me, man, I don't know, BM, that don't seem to be right. I'd come up with something to where you're BS, to where the fans can chant bullshit. And I said, you know what? You might have something there. What would the fans rather chant, bullshit or BM? Who gives a shit, you know?
Yeah.
And I think you might have something there. So we tried to, me and my son and a couple other people were bouncing some names around. And then all of a sudden, Bolin Services. I said, well, you know what? That's kind of what we're going to be. We're going to service wrestlers. I'm kind of the, you know, the Tom Cruise of this operation around here. I'm the sports agent trying to sign all the big athletes. So yeah, Bolin Services. Let me bounce that off Cornette. And so when we did it, he agreed. And then I'll be damned if 10 years later we're telling this story to somebody and Jimmy says, yes, as I came up with the name Bolin Services. I said, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You come up with BM. My ignorant ass brother came up with BS.
Who was kind enough to put an X on my book, by the way. I want to give him a shout out for that.
Butch, Timmy John, Biscuits and Gravy.
Yeah.
Well, he don't know how to sign his name. He does what he can, and that is what he does. I mean, he puts an X, and that's what stupid people do.
The last wrestling-related story about Kenny is a classic involving John Cena, a cheap suit, and Jerry the King Lawler.
Well, I'll tell you who else is a master forger. There is, Jerry Lawler's a great one. I'll tell the story about Jerry Lawler real quick that I'm sure that the fans are going to love. We were doing an event, and so we can narrow it down to the Continental 48, I won't say where it was, but people can probably guess. But we're doing this big event, and me, Jerry Lawler, John Cena, and a couple of others are in the main event that night. And a huge rainstorm comes and forces us to go on like second instead of last because Cena wants to get the hell out of there. Lawler's not particularly thrilled about being there. It's a pouring down rainstorm at an outdoor event. We have over 5,000 paid tickets to see this event. And this is when Cena had just been called up. He hadn't been up there long. And the main event is me managing Cena against Jerry Lawler. We go on, and it's a monsoon, man. It's coming down in record numbers, but there's 5,000 people there. And, of course, Danny Davis ain't wanting to give no refunds. No one there's the event coordinator's not wanting to give any refunds. And people are lined up to the exit gates to get in. We had to cut it off at 5,000. We could have probably got another 3,000 or 4,000 in there had the arena held it. Because Cena was just getting his good run going in the WWE at this time. So we go on second. They send the first schlups out to go out there and kind of test the ring and just see if you can actually put on a match in this shit. And I've got I guess about a $300 or $400 suit on. It's expensive for me. And it's gray, and I hadn't worn it very many times. I bought it at Value City, I think, for $299. And so I'm wearing this gray suit, and I'm thinking, man, I got to go out in this goddamn monsoon with my pretty gray suit on. Manage John Cena. I said, I'm going to lose my suit. So we go out. We have the match. We get through it as best we can. I mean, we are all fucking drenched. But, of course, they're wearing tights, so it's not quite as bad on them. And I get back there, and, of course, I've got on like a black mock turtleneck, and I've got the gray suit on, and I got my dress shoes on. And then we're standing in the trailer where Lawler and Cena were assigned to. And we're standing there, and we're supposed to sign 100 T-shirts that are going to be sold in part of a raffle for the event coordinator that we're doing this show for. Cena had already left. Cena left there, so there's me and Lawler. Cena had already left without signing the autographs. And the funny part of this story is that I am drenched, and my suit is just pooling water in his trailer like you won't believe. And as Lawler looks down, and Danny Davis is back there too, they look down, the entire floor is covered in gray water.
Oh, shit.
All the color in my suit was coming out into the floor. Danny Davis was laughing and crying so hard. He says, Bolin, you in that cheap-ass suit. I said, cheap-ass suit? This was a $300 suit, you son of a bitch, and somebody needs to pay for. I said, of course, the goddamn color's out of it. I've been out in the goddamn rain for 38 minutes for this fucking match with 23 minutes of foreplay. And I'm out there. I said, fuck, I could have stayed in the back with an umbrella while they did their shit. I said, somebody's paying for his goddamn suit. And then Lawler starts laughing, and he's crying. He said, that's got to be the cheapest goddamn suit I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen the color come out of a goddamn suit. I said, you've never seen a man in a suit manage a 38-minute match in a fucking monsoon either. I said, come on, man, cut me some slack. I said, this suit's ruined. And so now they're giving me shit over my piece of shit suit that is fucking just pooling at record levels, gray water. They don't even know if they can get the stains off the white tile floor or not. I think it's that bad. And then, when they get done laughing and crying at me, and I'm telling you, I've never seen Danny Davis laugh so hard in his fucking life. I didn't know he could laugh that hard. All at my expense, of course. And I look like a drowned rat on top of it. So then we realized we've got 100 shirts to sign for Six Flags, and there's no John Cena. And of course, he is going to be the signatured, he's the feature, even bigger than Lawler at that time, autograph on those shirts. That's what's going to sell the shirt. He looks at me and he says, I'm going to sign it. And he says, Kenny's going to sign it. And he said, well, John Cena's going to sign it too. I said, really? I said, somebody show me John Cena's signature. I said, well, I can always keep autographed pics of Cena in my briefcase because I trade them for free dinners all over Louisville. I said, so I pull it out and show Lawler the signature, and he says, yeah, I can do that. So he sits down and signs 100 shirts with John Cena's signature on it. He's going to kill me if he hears this story. Because there's only 5 of us that really know what happened. Me, Danny, Cornette, Lawler, and I guess Cena found out later. I'm sure Lawler told him. But they looked exactly like Cena's. I'm sitting there looking at the picture. I said, well, fuck, I wouldn't know any different. So there's 100 people floating around out there somewhere that's got mine, Jerry Lawler's, and John Cena's signature on a T-shirt. Or so, at least so they thought. So hell, that was fucking how long ago? That was probably 2005, I guess. Hell, it was 11 years ago. Get over it.
By the way, if you get Kenny's book, I Probably Screwed You Too, The Mostly True Stories of Kenny Bolin, WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler has a quote in that book, and right across the page from him is a quote from me. But the title of that book sums up Kenny in most people's minds. As his friend, it's hard to argue with him.
There's another incident that I'm not very proud of, but I did it to make ends meet after my divorce and was kind of in between wrestling gigs, is that I had some insiders at Chuck E. Cheese.
I haven't heard this one.
Well, I don't even know if it's in the book, to be honest with you. It might be. I can't remember if I even put this one in the book, but I had insiders at Chuck E. Cheese that would get me unlimited tokens for all their games. And I'm talking cupfuls of tokens. But I had insiders at 2 different locations. So every time I'd go, they'd load me up, and I'd give them whatever they wanted, whatever it happened to be. Never money, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And, so that was good enough because it entertained the hell out of my son for quite some time. We'd play the skee ball and the grand prize game. And, of course, I love Pop-A-Shot. And I was probably one of the best Pop-A-Shot shooters in the nation. As a matter of fact, I won the Kentucky State Fair Championship in 1997.
Wow.
With the highest scores on Pop-A-Shot. That's a shoot, and I ain't making that up. I dared anybody to beat me on Pop-A-Shot. And as a matter of fact, I used to win Christopher all these giant toys when we were in Atlanta, one of the local malls there. I forget which one, the big one in Marietta, for those of you down there that know. And also in the Hickory Hollow Mall when we lived in Nashville. And probably all these giant toys that Chris has all came from Pop-A-Shot and shooting in these malls. Well, that should have been good enough for most people. And then I said, well, you know what? Making money off these tokens would be even better. So what I decided to do was to hang out in the parking lot by the trunk of my car, and I'd catch people going into Chuck E. Cheese. And they'd pay $25 for X amount of tokens. I'd say, hey, instead of paying $25 for the tokens you're going to get in there, I work for the company, and I'm going to give you an inside deal. You pay me $20, and I'll give you more tokens than you're going to get in there for $25.
And of course, they'd say deal. They'd hand me the $20. I'd hand them the tokens. And you got to remember, by this time, I had a trunk full of Chuck E. Cheese tokens.
They could just dip a cup in the back, huh?
So that went well for quite some time. And then it got a little tougher. People were being a little hesitant about buying from me. I said, well, there's only one sure way that I can make sure that people will buy from me and nobody else and not have any hesitation at all. So what I did is I went out and I rented me a mouse suit.
I thought that's where it was going.
And I went down to the local Kroger store, your good old Kroger. They love me there. And I would buy those helium balloons. And I stood out in front of Chuck E. Cheese out in the parking lot in my mouse suit with my balloons by the trunk of my car. And I would give them an insider special deal. Wow. Buy from Chucky the Mouse, and you can get about extra $10 worth of tokens as opposed to what you're going to get inside. Well, that went very well. I was making anywhere between $200 and $300 a day.
Wow.
Selling Chuck E. Cheese tokens. And I was doing that 2 or 3 days a week. I didn't want to wear out my welcome. I didn't want that mouse to be seen in the parking lot. So that worked for a long time. I got by with that for the better part of a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Man.
Till one sad day, the real Chuck E. Cheese showed up.
Oh, man.
He saw me out in the parking lot with those balloons selling those tokens. And I want you to know that rat, not a mouse, he was a rat, went in, ratted me out to management, and they come out and they asked me to leave before they called the police.
Oh, man.
All I am is an entrepreneurial mouse. I never said I was Chuck E. Cheese. There's nothing on my mouse suit that says Chuck E. Cheese. And these tokens I gained in fair trade. So there's not a thing you can do to me. I said, but just to keep things peaceful, I'll go ahead and leave.
The next story is the most infamous of all the stories about him. It's the Kroger meat scam, or as he calls it, the Kroger meat opportunity. This was the first show that I had ever done with him. After saying that he would be on the show soon, ever since the podcast started, he finally made it onto the radio show that I did 7 months later. I was really excited to have him on the show, so please excuse me for laughing at every little thing he did, but I couldn't wait for the listeners to hear this story.
You're right. I can't go anywhere or any place that I don't have to talk about the Kroger thing. Even though Cornette has recently stated that etched upon my tombstone if I die before he does, and he's hoping I do, that here lies the bones of Kenny Starmaker Bolin. He died with his finger in the youth of America. I said, well, once I'm gone, I don't care. If you're paying for it, put it on there. People will remember that when you're strolling through a graveyard and there lies that etching.
Yeah, that's not something you forget anytime soon.
I hope they're decent enough to at least put a picture of it to go with the cat. And I hope the girl's 19. I don't want any trouble after him. So the Kroger thing. This is how it all started. And it is in the book. So in a nutshell, I'll give it to you. It all started with times were getting tough in Nashville. I hadn't really started working with Nick Gulish yet. I was still waiting for the call from Jim Cornette to where he and I were going to be working in the business together. Well, I've been waiting 7 long years, and it hadn't happened yet. So I was pretty sure that wasn't going to happen. So we go to Kroger one night and we buy, I guess it's $8 worth of ground beef, $8, $9, something like that, to bring home, and we're going to make some hamburgers. And Kroger at that time had started a thing called Run by Alex. And if you're in Ohio, everybody up there that's anywhere near my age knows who Alex is and knows who Kroger is.
Mm-hmm.
Corporate bases in Cincinnati. They love me there. And, so I go to Kroger and we get the ground beef. Well, have you ever gotten that ground beef that's got a lot of gristle in it, and every time you take a bite, you get this hard gristle?
Yeah.
Well, this happened in like several of the burgers. And I wasn't too thrilled about paying, because I'm one of these guys that would rather die back then than pay more than 99 cents for a pound of ground beef. And if I'm going to pay more than that, it better be damn good hamburger. Well, I'm pretty upset, and I really had paid no attention to what their policy was. So I drive my wife back to Kroger at that time, the lovely Gabrielle. I can't say the B word on here, can you? So I drive her to Kroger. She goes in. And like I said, we bought about $9 worth of hamburger. So I'm expecting about $9 to come back out with her. And she comes back out and she hands me like $22. And she says, here's the refund. I looked at her. I said, well, what else they give you a refund for? I said, this $22 here. Yeah, I know. They say something about if you're not happy with their meat, it's a double your money back meat policy or something. I don't know, hon, but we just got $22. I said, plus we ate all that hamburger. Yeah, pretty damn good. I got an idea. So I go home and I said, well, you know what? What if we bought steaks? So we go back and we buy about $30 worth of steaks. We go home, we have a nice steak dinner, invite the neighbors, they're having steak, and we take that back. And of course, we got back with tax about $66 because of 8.75% sales tax in Tennessee. I'm like, man, I think we might be able to take this a step further. So what I did is I went to a Kroger there a few miles away from where I lived. And they had pork loins. Now, this is where the gamble comes in. A lot of people may not have done this. They had these big, giant tube pork loins in all the Krogers down there that ran about anywhere from $99 to $109 a tube. They're a big, huge thing. I look at Gabrielle. I said, here's what we're going to do. I said, it says if you don't like it, it's double your money back. I don't like pork loins. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try it, and if I like it, then we'll keep it. But if I don't like it, we're going to bring it back and get a refund. I said, but here's where it's really going to get interesting. We're going to keep the receipt and take half of this pork loin back to any Kroger. And we're going to take the pricing label that came from this store and the other half of the pork loin, and we're going to return that to the store that we bought it at. Can you do the math with me, Gabrielle? Oh, my God. We can spend like $99 and get back like $420. Very good math. I said, that's what we're going to do. Oh, but what if they don't do it? I said, they have to do it. It's their policy. So we bring the pork loins home. We cook up a boatload of them. We cut from the middle. We invite the neighbors over. We're feeding pork loins to anybody that wants them. We get done with dinner, and there's still a big old slab of meat left on each end there. And I said, well, I didn't like it. How about you? She looks at me, and I said, well, let's go to Kroger. So we go to the Kroger. We bought it at with the thing, and there, hey, this is what's left. And nobody was really fond of it. You know, it just wasn't that good. We'd like our money back. So they give her back $220-something with Tennessee sales tax. We go to the Kroger that we, with the receipt to another Kroger about 4 or 5 miles away. I'll be damned if they didn't do the same thing. But now we spent $99. We've made $4. That's a pretty good return. I don't care what stock market you're in. I said, well, guess what? I said, there's probably about 50 or 60 Krogers down here in the metro area. There's also Chattanooga that's got a boatload of Krogers. Nashville's got a boatload. Knoxville's got a boatload. Louisville's got a boatload. Lexington's got a boatload. But I'm not going to try this in Cincinnati. That's corporate office up there. They might not play ball. So we never did this in Ohio. Listen to me in Dayton. They think you can come get me. No, you can't. So they won't extradite me there after all these years. So, and I never saw anything wrong with what I was doing. Some people called it criminal. Jimmy Cornette eventually caved in and called it wasn't a meat scam, because Jerry Jarrett called it a meat scam. When we did the great debate, he said, Kenny, you were involved in a meat scam, and he said it was such shame. All the crap that wrestlers have done over the years, all the hideous crimes that have been committed. We've got wrestlers that have killed their kids and their offspring, but he gets on me for committing a meat scam. I think worse things have been done. Let's calm down a little bit. And then Cornette finally, after 7 years later, he says, well, Kenny, maybe what it was a meat opportunity. I'll accept a meat opportunity. But this got so big that this became my job for the better part of 5 years. I would rotate what area we worked in. We'd do Nashville for a while until we'd hit every store once. Then we'd go to Chattanooga. Then we'd go to, assuming I really did this, I could be lying.
Throw out the disclaimer.
But assuming I really did, like the OJ thing. Well, if I killed the DI, that's how I would have done it. So, and I rotated all the cities, and by the time we rotated through, it was time to start over again. They kind of forgot you'd done been there, and oh yeah, well, every 6 months, Kenny buys a pork loin you don't like. so
You'd think you'd learn.
I expanded the territory because friends and relatives were now wanting to know how to do this. Well, unfortunately, you can't do it anywhere that I am because I can only rotate so many stores, and if we're all doing it, there's going to be trouble. So you can't do it here, but if you want to do it in Indiana, if you want to do it in Ohio, West Virginia, I don't care, but you ain't doing it because if I hear you're doing it, there's going to be problems. Well, sure. Well, George Moore, one of my dear friends for a long, long time. I don't know where he's at now. He disappeared years ago, probably because of the meat scam. This goofy SOB goes into a Kroger, buys 3 pounds of hamburger, and then took it back and got his double your money back. And that was the only time he ever did it. He said he was terrified. He was scared. He didn't want to lose money. He was scared if he bought the big $99 pork loin, he'd be stuck with it. So he doubled his money off 3 pounds of hamburger, which was maybe $12 if he's lucky. And that was the only time he ever did it. Well, my cousins started doing it, and they started losing their nerve. They were scared. So then my mother decides she wants to go to old Mal Bolin. She decides she wants to go to Florida and wants me to pay for it. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to give you the money. But I'm going to do much like that biblical thing to where you can teach a man, you can give a man a fish and he eats fish for a day, but if you teach him how to fish, he can eat for a lifetime. I don't know if that's the exact quote, but being as I'm not the most biblical guy in the world, that's the closest you're going to get out of me. So I take Mom to Kroger and I tell her exactly what to do. So she goes in, she buys the meat and everything. I spotted her the $99 to get her off, and I said if it's more than that, cover the difference. So now we've cut the meat up and we've had some pork and we take Mom back to the Kroger that she bought it at, and she goes in to get her refund and everything's fine. No. Yeah, everything's fine there. So she gets the refund there, 200 and something bucks, big smile on her face. Oh, this is easy. I'm going to have plenty of money to take Florida with me. We go to the next store. I want you to know that the manager that was at the store that we were at just happened to have went to the next Kroger that we went to, spotted Mom in there doing the same thing that she'd just done at the other Kroger about a half hour ago, goes up to her and says, hey, ma'am, what you're doing here is a scam. We should have you arrested. I demand that you put that meat down. You get out of my store before I call the police. Mom comes out, standing there in front of Kroger. I'm going to pick her up, assuming she's got her $440 and I can ship her off to Florida. And she's standing there and she's crying. I said, what's going on? What are you crying about? That manager in there was at the other store and he recognized me and he told me if we didn't get out of here, he's going to call the police. Please let me get in the car. Please take me home. I mean, what a whip. Wouldn't make them honor their policy. Standing there crying like a baby. So I let her back in the car against my will. I didn't want to. Gave her a ride back home, yelling at her all the way. You killed the territory. You killed the business. They're all on to me now. I can't help you, stupid moron. And now you basically going to make me go back to work. So I gave her the damn money to go to Florida on. And she made it back. So
what became of the pork line?
That was the end of it.
That was the end of that was the end of that. That one never got returned.
Mal Bolin. Well, I mean, we ate what we could of it. I don't know that we ever ate it all. It was a big pork loin. But that was the end of the Kroger meat opportunity as well. I mean, that went away on that day.
Man,
they were on to us. Good, I'm sure they alerted all the other Krogers.
That's a hell of a story. He even figured out a way to get gas for free.
That's an old trick I used to do when times were tough and I was single, and I'd go to a gas station and I would fill up. And this was back in the 80s, maybe a little bit of the 70s, definitely the 80s. And I would fill up and then, 79. So yeah, we did this in 79. And I would fill up with gas, and then I'd wait for about 5 o'clock when it's busier and shit and every pump is full. So they were just appreciative that I would pull up to the door to make another pump available so they could sell more gas. So there would be 4 or 5 checkers in there, in these Thorntons and Super Americas and places like that. Not that I did this. I've heard people do it. And got to say, my attorney tells me to say it that way.
Mm-hmm. A friend of yours.
A friend of mine. So a friend of mine did this shit. What a fool. What a fool he was. We'll say it was me.
This is not a stupid Kenny story. It's a stupid friend of mine
Stupid friend of mine story. So we'll say it was me just to make the story interesting. So I would fill up with gas, and it would come to $20 or $30, whatever gas cost back then, because I had like a 22-gallon tank. And would pull up to the door after I filled up. There'd be 4 or 5 checkers in there. They don't have any clue to what car. There'd be fucking 20 cars out there. So they couldn't keep track of it. And at that time, I drove a gold Grand Prix. That was the only negative thing, is that car stood out like a fucking sore thumb. But they were so busy, they didn't even notice that that was the car that just filled up with gas. So I'd pull up to the door, and then I'd shop for a while. And I'd walk around. I'd get a bag of chips. I'd get a Big Red or whatever, and really let them forget that I'd filled up with gas. Then I'd go up to the counter, and I'd have a bag of chips and a Big Red in my hand, or maybe just a Big Red in some cases, or a payday bar. I'd only have 1 or 2 things at best, and a $20 bill in my hand. And I'd hand them the food and the $20 bill, and they would say, every single time, "Is that all?" "Yes, yeah, that's it." And then I would turn my back to them and start looking at the candy rack to see if there's anything over there I want. And then they say, "Okay, here's your change, sir." And I'd turn around, and I would blindly hold my hand out, take whatever they gave me, and then put it in my hand, put it in my pocket. And if they gave me anything back at all, I knew they'd fucked up. And then they'd put $19 in my hand. And then I'd put it in my pocket and grab my Big Red, go to my car, get and leave just as fucking fast as I could. And I must have gotten 100 free tanks of gas doing that. And it was their fault because they weren't paying attention. And I didn't steal anything because I didn't ask for anything that they didn't give me. I gave them enough money to pay for the gas and the Big Red, and they only charged me for the Big Red. They were not looking to see, well, did you get gas? Now, if they said, "Did you get gas?" I would have to say yes. But they never would ask me that. And that's probably what, if you don't know, "Did you get any gas?" And I'd have to say yes. I couldn't fucking lie about it because I'm not a liar. It's not me. It's not in my DNA to do that. So we must have pulled that 100, maybe 150 times at least, just doing it that way.
Yeah, your friend really was very smart about that.
And there was another friend I had who would punch cards for me at Super America. And if you got 5 punches, you got a free tank of gas. If you filled up 4 times, your 5th tank was free. Well, I'd go in there, and he would punch me out like 20 or 30 cards at a time that were all ready for a free tank of gas. So every time I'd go in, Bill Fair. Oh, well, just buried his ass. Sorry, Bill. Feds will be at your door tomorrow. So Bill Fair would punch these. Went on to be a great referee at OVW, by the way. Had a little pull. I had to give him something. Because so I'd go in there and I'd shop, and then of course he wouldn't ring me up on the groceries I'd bought, and we'd walk out of there with $75, $100 for the groceries, and then I'd hand him one of those Super America cards, get a free tank of gas on the way out the door, and of course we'd always go in there on bone dry empty, so it'd be $30 or $40 worth of gas, plus your $80 to $100 worth of groceries, and if they had 12 packs out there stacked up like they do at gas stations. We'd fill the fucking truck up with 12 packs when I were out there. There might be 16 to 20 packs of 12 packs in the truck. So we'd fill those fuckers up. And then we would take the wood and fertilizer that they had stacked up out there, put that in the back seat, and then go home and sell that to anybody in the complex that needed fucking wood, because we had fireplaces in the complex. So we would sell the wood and fertilizer to anybody that wanted it at a seduced rate. So one trip to the gas station. A trip to the gas station was worth $200 or $300, and then we might go back later that day and load up on groceries again.
Parking can't escape the wiles of Kenny Bolin. Even if the parking's free, that simply isn't good enough for the king. Now, this is another story that I've heard where you painted a handicap signal on the parking spot in front of your condo. So you'd be the only one who could park there because you had a handicap placard. Nobody else did.
That was actually at Rob Dickens' place, and they had one handicap slot in the entire place. One. So, and they weren't going to put another one in. They said there's one in front of each building. I'm sorry, the lady that lives here, she gets that spot. I said, but I'm handicapped too. Well, you're not on the lease. And you know what? I wasn't. I was in the hospital. So when Chris and Rob went and got that place, my name wasn't on the lease. It was a gentleman's agreement. I'll pay my share. I'm not worried about my name being on the lease. I'm not concerned about it. So because my name wasn't on the lease, they wouldn't give me a handicap slot, and really didn't act like they were going to anyway, because they said 1 handicap slot per building. Now, how the fuck do you do that? What if you got 3 handicapped people in one building? Don't they deserve 3 handicap slots if they're paying rent and live there? Aren't they entitled to 1 slot? So the office was to the back end of the fucking place. We were at the front end. We knew that office rarely ever saw that building, and plus that building was always at capacity. There was really no reason, unless maintenance was to come, and maintenance wasn't going to pay no attention, that what I was about to do was going to be done. So I called my buddy Jerry. Jerry was the maintenance man at Willowbrook Apartments. That was the first time I'd ever moved into an apartment since being in the wrestling business. That was when I liquefied and started living a lot cheaper, didn't have roommates anymore, didn't rent to wrestlers anymore, and lived a far stressful life. Well, part of his job at Willowbrook was painting the handicap slots in front of apartments that had handicapped people living in them. Well, he's a dear friend of mine, and he's the one that talked me into moving there to begin with at Willowbrook. So I said, what are the chances that when you get off work at 5 o'clock, I said, the office over here closes at 5. Why don't you show up at about 5:45 to be on the safe side? And I said, and I'll get you dinner for 2 at Golden Corral, which is about a $35 value, especially when it's all you can eat prime rib. I said, I got dinner for 2 for you at Golden Corral and a free Bolin Services t-shirt, because he didn't have one yet, if you will paint a handicap sign in front of my door. Well, will I get in trouble? I said, not if they don't know what the fuck you're doing. I said, you're going to look like hired help painting a fucking handicap sign. Ain't nobody going to say nothing. I said, just paint the goddamn thing and get out of there. All right, well, let me go get my stencil. So he gets the stencil, and he comes over there 5:45, right on time. And I'll be goddamn, he's out there painting the nicest, biggest fucking handicap sign. Well, there's just one problem. The other lady had a pole. The other lady had a pole in the dirt, and I had the big nice thing painted right in my parking slot. And it had, and then he added reserved KB for Kenny Bolin. so he adds that to the deal. And I want you to know, I was there. I lived there about 13, 14 months. I want you to know it was month 8 before they realized that I had my own, because my car was parked there normally during the days anyway. Uh-huh. So I was parked over that sign. They never saw it. And if I left during the day, and then sometimes I go to the doctor or something and would have to leave it exposed, but apparently just no one ever thought anything about it. Maintenance probably thought that someone else from maintenance done it, and maybe they thought they ran out of poles. But it was there 8 months before they knew. They contact Rob. They're furious about it. Did you do that? No, we didn't do it. We thought you all did. We just came in one day and there it was. but you do realize Kenny's a fairly famous guy. They probably somebody felt bad for him and hired somebody to come over here and do it. We thought you all did it. So out of pity, they went ahead and left the fucking thing there. He said, your all's lease is up in 4 months anyway. Are y'all staying here? Rob said, fuck no. We hate this goddamn place.
That just about wraps it up for this episode, but next year, Kenny and I will be back at it again, giving all of you listeners one hell of a good time. Here's one show idea that we came up with during an episode.
Did her and that other guy ever settle up on her shit? They had the martial law. Did they ever get that ironed out?
Yeah. He ended up losing the case, and she had to retweet him for, I think it was 2 weeks. Something like that. I forget what the ruling was. I was the one who gave it out.
Well,
I ended up screwing her over, though. So.
I'll see if I can get Jimmy on for martial law. We'll see what mood we can catch him in sometime.
That would be a hell of a lot of fun, man. I promise.
Well, if we don't, I'll get Vince Russo to do it.
Things have changed, and Jim Cornette will not be doing an episode of martial law. But recently, Kenny and the infamous WWE and WCW writer Vince Russo had a little bit of a controversy, and they will both be on martial law to settle it. Kenny sent me this clip of Vince Russo to include on this episode.
Yo, bro, Viagra on a pole, Viagra on a friggin' pole. It's ingenious, bro. Who else would have thought of a concept like that, bro? I'm a freaking genius. I know what I'm doing. I know where the wrestling business needs to go. Who else would know? And I'm yelling because I'm trying to do my best Bernie Sanders impersonation, bro. friend, and you're clueless, bro. Mr. Bolin is one of my best and biggest friends and fans and admirers, bro. I love Mr. Bolin. He is a character like Spiros Arion, a character like Bruno Sammartino and Fred Blassie, bro.
And after listening to that clip, I'm not so sure that's Vince Russo. Maybe I'll ask him about it when he comes on Martial Law. I'll play it for him and we'll find out. And Kenny will also be driving up to my house this spring for a cookout. You did say that you guys are coming down for a cookout sometime. I'm looking forward to that.
Eyes are ribbing you. I wouldn't come up there. Are you kidding me?
Are you
Ohio?
Sure?
You're in Dayton, right? The Dayton area?
Yeah.
How many hours is that from here? About 3?
About 3, yeah.
Oh, I think I can suck up 3 hours for some good hamburgers, maybe some brats, some cheese, a little relish, some tater salad, some beans, corn on the cob. Maya, by the way, loves corn on the cob, and she's having a fit over your property. Many times I'll see her at my 50-inch computer screen in the living room just gawking at your property going, oh, my God, I'd love to be there. I said, shut up, bitch. We got a fucking 25-foot yard out in the front and a 50-foot yard in the back. Calm down.
Now, are my pictures the screensaver on your computer?
They are on hers, I'll guarantee you.
And we might even do a bonus for people to watch on Periscope and YouTube. When you come up for the cookout, we should make a video of us going to Kroger's to pick out the stuff.
Well, we could do that. But no, Maya's looking very forward to that. She loves your property. Chris saw it. Man, that just looks like the place to be for a nice little evening cookout with low heat and humidity, preferably. So we'll try and put our spots on that. But no, you let us know when it's good for you. I assume you have a grill. I don't know how you can live on that property and not have a grill.
Yeah, I got one right next to my front door. That's it for me this week. If you like the show, please spread the word, tell your friends, and make sure you subscribe. You don't want to miss an episode. I'll be back on Monday.
Thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show and leave a review. See you next time.
Welcome to We Don't Have... Oh.
Woo, that nearly went through my speakers. God damn, that got loud. I must have it set on like 99 or something. Fuck, it got real loud for a minute. Well, I get my headphones back in, cocksucker.